Welcome to the Books Between Friends podcast.
3 lifelong friends,
one shared obsession.
Books.
From epic fantasy to page-turning thrillers.
We dive into the stories we love
And the ones we just can't stop talking about.
So take a seat,
Grab a drink,
and get cozy.
All right. Hey, book friends. Welcome back. What have you guys been up to? How was your weekend? What are we currently reading? Listen, let's just call a spade a spade. For me, all the excitement right now is coming from that school's almost out. It is almost out. We have almost made it. Yeah, I have this week and then next week and then I'm done.
Wow.
And then it's summer.
Yay!
hell yeah. Do you have any summer plans?
No. And that is okay with me.
Rest.
Those are
your
the
plan.
perfect plans.
Yeah.
Yes.
No
absolutely.
plans are the best plans.
They're the best ones. So that's all I have going on, and I am totally fine with it.
I bet.
Yep.
I bet. 2 weeks left. Well, cheers to Ethan and almost being off in 2 weeks. Yay!
Yay.
Okay,
exciting.
so for me, I was in Waco this past weekend, and I got to spend some time with my mom for Mother's Day, and I got to see my niece, my 2-year-old niece, who her favorite word is no right now. So
Love it.
we're the phase where it's just like, no, and just slaps everything away from you. So we have to teach her first that we can't slap. And then 2, that we can't say no to everything. So that was fun. I thought it was funny, but my brother told me to obviously not laugh at everything she does, because then she thinks it would be okay. So that was hard for me as her titi to not laugh.
Yep. I remember those days. I
Right?
remember those days.
Yeah.
But it was a great weekend. I am actually 10 chapters into book 3 of Dungeon Crawler series, and it is getting
Me too.
so good. I will try to make sure that I don't talk about book 3 in our discussion today.
Yes.
No.
Keep what I know to myself.
Yes.
And
Oh man, Steph, what about you?
So we were visiting family this weekend for my sister-in-law's baby shower. It's her first baby, so
Yay!
exciting to be with them and celebrate. So yeah, it was just a nice weekend.
I saw pictures online, and it was so adorable the way they set it up. So cute.
Yeah. It was really cute. So my sister-in-law is in event planning. So when she puts together an event, no matter what it is, it's always like designed so aesthetically. And
So
yeah,
nice. Yeah. It was really cool.
she did not disappoint for this one. It was very cute.
love it. Love it. All right, crawlers, welcome back to our deep dive, where we're currently reading Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. This is episode 2 of our 4-part series. But before we get too much into it, I'm going to pass it on over to Steph for our standard PSA.
That's right, you guys. Before we get into our discussion today, just a quick spoiler warning. If you're listening to this episode, we're assuming that you've read all the way through chapter 24 of Dungeon Crawler Carl, because there are going to be spoilers throughout. So if you haven't read that far, please make sure to do so, and then come back and listen to our discussion. And then just a quick shout out before we move on. If you're enjoying our podcast and you're liking our discussions, please, if you could, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us grow, and it helps other book nerds find our little community. And we'd love to give you a shout out on our next episode.
Yay. Okay. Now, before we get into our discussion, here's what's happening so far in the dungeon. Carl and Donut continued exploring the dungeon and discovered the corpse of a dead crawler named Rebecca W., who had been shot and killed by another crawler named Frank Q. Realizing there were crawlers willing to murder others for survival and loot, Carl warned Donut they needed to be careful around other people and avoid revealing what gear they carried. They later watched the premiere of Dungeon Crawler World Earth, where the Syndicate portrayed Earth and humans negatively while showcasing other crawlers surviving in the dungeon, including a 13-year-old named Lucia Marr and her 2 Rottweilers. Donut became determined to gain attention on the show by killing bigger bosses, but Carl remained focused on finding the staircase before the floor collapsed. As they kept exploring, Carl and Donut returned to the goblin-controlled tutorial guild area and used Carl's pass to safely interact with the goblins. They traded meth for a human-sized chopper with a sidecar to help him travel faster through the dungeon. After accidentally starting a meth war between the goblins and the llamas... hilarious. Carl and Donut decided to attack the Goblin Chieftain for another boss reward. Using explosives and black powder from the Goblin Workshop, they blew up the boss room and killed the Chieftain, but Donut later revealed that there had also been Goblin babies and non-combatants inside. Carl struggled with what happened after receiving achievements tied to killing infants and civilians.
Ugh, not the babies.
I know, not the babies.
Terrible.
Later, Carl and Donut encountered Frank Q and his partner Maggie inside a safe room. The pair attempted to ambush them, but because violence is forbidden in safe rooms, they were frozen in place and marked as naughty, allowing Carl and Donut to escape. While searching for the stairs to the second floor, they found a large encampment of survivors made up of mostly elderly crawlers from an elder care facility. The group explained that a Boro boss was blocking the staircase to level 2. Although Carl knew they could leave and search for another exit, he ultimately decided to stay and help the group fight the boss. To prepare, Carl and Donut trained together by fighting mobs and leveling up before eventually defeating another neighborhood boss called the Juicer, who is a massive level 9 creature formed from a troglodyte and a bodybuilder-like monster. Carl and Donut managed to defeat the boss by crushing it with barbells and weights, but not before the Juicer nearly strangled Carl to death. Donut finally joined the fight with her claws, helping defeat the boss, though she was injured during the battle and later healed herself with a potion. The last crawler update was in Chapter 19, where there are currently 3,594,517 crawlers left. And just to give perspective from our last section, that is about 500,000 that are gone. Wait, yeah, right? 500,000, 7 million. Okay.
Just a little over.
Yeah. Oof.
I
Crazy.
know. 500,000? Like, holy shit. They're dwindling stuff. I was like, don't we have this many books?
It's hard to like wrap your head around those numbers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And I think that's probably what I'm going to hit onto in our points that we have within our next segment, which is called the Dungeon Run. Just a reminder, since we are switching it up from our usual 3-2-1 structure, this next section is the Dungeon Run, and this is the main part of our discussion that we will have. And so we're going to discuss things that stand out to us and talk about some decisions that Carl and Donut made together, and then also what we would have done in that situation. So let's get things kicked off here. Going into the Dungeon Run, let's each talk about a couple things that stood out to us. So I'll go first here. The first thing that stood out to me was just this recurring theme, especially we get it with the goblins, we get it with Frank Q and Maggie, this idea of morality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what stuck out to me, because Carl has these really poignant moments that he's thinking to himself. He's like, basically, damn, what's happening to us? You know,
Mm-hmm.
the morality issues that come into play here are really, they're astounding and they're complex. The first aspect is this morality of another galactic force causing the genocide of humanity, really, and
Right.
to make it for entertainment. And then the second of which, you compound that with the second aspect, is that Carl and Donut are being forced into this situation, and yet they still are retaining some of their humanity, and one of them is a cat. So let's think about that. But I truly wonder just how many crawlers out there just assume that since this is the end of the world,
Mm-hmm.
that they might as well go big or go home, and wouldn't even batting an eye at killing a fellow human, let alone a goblin baby. You know, what do y'all think?
Totally. It's so hard to, grapple with like how entertaining reading this story is. And then you get those like gut punches of, these numbers that they're announcing of how many crawlers are left. And then also face to face with, the ugly parts of humanity, where there's some people out there that like in a situation like this, like the worst parts of them show,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hence
Right.
Frank Q and Maggie.
Yeah.
And then like later on you see Carl like honestly being a great guy and like, trying to do something about them too, since they're out on the loose. And then also like helping a group of vulnerable people later on, which like, I don't know that everybody would do that. Even people that you would consider good people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, just thinking myself, like when I was reading these sections, of course, right? Like I was thinking very selfishly, and that's kind of
Yeah.
hard to say, but like I was thinking like my survival is on the line here, and I want to think about me and me surviving, right? So like when you start thinking of like morality, like, do we kill these people or not? Do we do this to, just to save ourselves? Like it is a kind of a conundrum, and it's really hard to say what you would do in that situation. So like I
Right.
remember texting you, Ethan, about this, like feeling very sad every time that Carl would bring up that dwindling number of crawlers left. And then also thinking how AI was just hilarious. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel right now.
I know. I know.
It's so
Which makes
complicated.
me
Yeah.
it truly is. It really is. Which makes me appreciate the moments where Carl, like you said, Steph, has those gut punches. Like he himself gets those gut punches too, rather than us, just the reader. But I appreciate those so much because it grounds us into the reality of the situation. Like,
Yeah.
yes, this is really entertaining and it's funny. And it's at some parts it's really light-hearted.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other times it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you don't even want to think about putting yourself in those shoes.
One of my favorite things about Carl is what he says to himself whenever he's like alone, or he thinks he's alone, right? He says, "You will not break me." And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
love for you, Carl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep that mantra up, buddy.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all you can do.
I know.
All right. Okay, so the second thing that stood out to me is we're starting to see other crawlers in the recap show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really interesting. It always makes me wonder if it makes the other crawlers feel a sense of community like it does Carl. Because even though he may not explicitly say that, you can tell that he appreciates seeing other people in his situation.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of, I don't know, like I haven't read anything that can confirm this, but I kind of feel like he's probably keeping a tally in his head of like, oh, she's alive, he's alive. Like I hope to continue to see their faces just so I know that they're alive,
Yeah.
I thought this was more of like a challenge. Like obviously that's probably what the syndicate is trying to do, right? Like display these
Sure.
recap shows to make it more challenging. It's like they're surviving, so now I have to make sure to survive, and be better. Because obviously this is an entertainment show, right?
Right.
That's how I was taking it as. I didn't even think about the whole sense of community, which is probably, you're right. Like, kind of putting yourself in the shoes. It's like all these people are dead, but these are the last surviving people, and this is how they're making it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of more along the lines of your thinking, Jen, is like I would want to see the show to kind of see how I measure up to
Yeah.
the other crawlers, and then also to kind of figure out what it would take to get a feature on the show.
Yeah.
Selfishly to try to get featured on the show, and then in turn try to get some sponsors to help me out in the game,
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
live, and I don't know how hard each level is going to get. And so we're probably going to depend on these boxes that they're going to send, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely think that he views it as that, but I don't know. I was just the second time around reading it, I was like, I wonder if he's also
Right.
thinking this too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe on even
That
a
is a good
subconscious
point.
level to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's like the confirmation that you get when you know that someone else out there can relate to what you're experiencing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those were a couple of things that I had. What about you, Steph?
Yeah, so my first one is just kind of like a lighthearted one. I thought it was so hilarious how quickly Donut flip-flops her opinions of Frank. So,
That was hilarious to read. Yeah.
oh my God,
So
she was
funny.
just like whiplash on what she was saying and thinking about Frank. So at first, when they came across Rebecca W.'s dead corpse, they can tell, a crawler named Frank Q was the one that killed her. And the first thing she says is, "Oh goodness, this Frank Q gentleman doesn't seem like a decent person at all." But later, when they actually encounter Frank Q and he gives them that BS story about why he had to kill Rebecca W., she ate it right up and completely changed her tune about Frank. And Carl was like picking up on the subtle cues and realizing, oh, this guy's not a good guy and he's probably going to attack us. And so he sends a chat to Donut saying like, hey, I think we're about to be attacked. Don't react. And in all caps, she's like, what do you mean? Frank is an American hero.
Frank is an American hero,
I
Carl.
died.
You know, for somebody who's so charismatic and so intelligent, because her intelligence is higher, like, how did you buy that story? Like, it was clearly fabricated. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, you know what's
Yes.
hilarious? I keep thinking back to what Mordecai told Carl about intelligence. And so when Carl was like complaining about his low intelligence score, Mordecai told him, no, what you're talking about is wisdom. And they actually ended up having to take that stat out of like your regular list of stats. And so you guys have also probably encountered people like this. People who are so book smart, but like street dumb. That's Donut in a nutshell.
That is
And
so
I know
true.
you guys know someone like that. At least one
Totally.
person.
I will tell you one thing. There are moments that
I didn't say
definitely
that.
do that. I know you did it. I know you did it. But I know I do this, okay?
You guys, out of the three of us in this group, only one has a PhD. But she may be that person in this group.
She may be. She may be.
But some of the choices I make, you guys, is like very questionable. And my brother always calls me out for it. It's so funny. He was like, bro, like, aren't you smart? And I was like, I mean, I think
Allegedly.
Sweetie, you're supposed to be smart. Yeah. They told me you were smart.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So yes, that made me think of that too, Stephanie. 'Cause it was just like, I have some questionable moments in my life every now and then.
I can see myself in Donut.
Oh,
Not as
I love her,
charismatic
though.
though. That she like outshines me in that for sure.
I think she outshines all of us.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Oh man. No, that was definitely a really funny moment. And I kind of just wanted to go off on what you were talking about, stuff with like the whole Frank and Carl and Donut interaction. Not particularly what Donut's interaction was in this whole situation, but like Carl. So when they did encounter Frank and Maggie, Carl just coming in super clutch was my first point. His memory, wow, like I would not have remembered this at all. So like when you get an overload of information, like the way that Mordecai was giving, you know, Carl and Donut in the very beginning, like I'm sure I could have remembered the gist of what you're talking about. Because like I do remember a lot of things when I do read like several books at a time. But when it comes to like some details, you know, you don't always pick up everything. So like his memory coming in super clutch when it came to what Mordecai said about the safe rooms, like it literally saved their lives. So this is what happens. He said, there's no violence and no stealing in the safe rooms. It's a strict ironclad rule. You get 3 strikes the first time you freeze in place for about 100 seconds. So like Carl remembered that. And that's why he told Donut, he was like, hey, don't react, don't shoot back, don't do anything. They're going to try to ambush us and try to kill us. You know, just don't react. And so it was like, I would have been freaking out. Like I would have been panicking had I been Donut in that situation. Like I just thought that Carl just came in clutch with that. So what'd y'all think of that?
No, I was impressed because I also sometimes need to like take in information multiple times before it sinks in. And especially after this was a traumatic situation, your whole world literally collapsed. Now you're in this crazy sadistic game, like television game, and I'm supposed to like try to remember all these rules. I wouldn't have remembered it.
Yeah. I would have remembered that something that they would have been frozen, but I would not have remembered a specific time limit. And so I would have been SOL in that regard. But just the fact that he can remember, I think is amazing. It almost makes me wonder if he has like some type of photographic memory almost, because he just seems to be kind of scrappy like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where people, like, I get the sense that people have always underestimated him on what he's capable. Like when people see him, they just think like he's like the dumb jock kind of thing, like the
Yeah.
I can see that.
and he's not like that. He's very smart and he's very thoughtful in how he acts.
Yeah.
Well, like even Donut reacted that way. She was like, "How are you all of a sudden this intelligent when like Beatrice was dating 3 people behind your back and you had no clue?"
That was such a funny scene. I was just like, oh my God,
Like,
poor
what?
Carl.
I know. that's
Another moment where he's
awful.
like, "Wait, what?
Yeah.
Goblin babies? What? 3 people behind your back? What?"
Oh no.
But she's like, don't worry, you're one of the 3.
Yeah. And then she was like, "Wait, do women count?"
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So there were 3 others. Oh, man.
Well, definitely his ex-girlfriend was underestimating him for sure. Or not underestimating
Yes.
him. She was taking him for granted for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
She sucks, essentially.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Boo.
Why
Boo
would you
hiss.
cheat
Yeah.
on Carl? I'm starting to really love Carl, by the way.
Yeah. He seems like a great guy.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about like book boyfriend love. I'm like,
Oh. I don't
I
know.
think he's
about
book
that. Maybe I haven't read
boyfriend worthy.
enough.
Yeah, true. Okay. All right. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to like jump into one of my first points, but Steph, what was your other point?
That's okay. It ties in. So my second point is actually about all these details that Mordecai told Carl at the beginning. So I noticed that what Mordecai told him and what the other party they encountered got as information is kind of like conflicting information. So whenever they started approaching the stairwell to level 2, that other group had like spray painted some messages to anybody approaching. One of them said like be careful or you'll activate the boss, the city boss at the stairwell. And then Carl thought to himself, shit, Mordecai had said that bosses wouldn't be guarding the stairwells until the 4th floor. But then once they actually met up with that group, one of the people in that party told Carl, our tutorial guide lady, Mistress Tiatha, she said all borough and city bosses will have stairwells for the first 4 or 5 levels. So that stood out to me because, you know, like we already know at this point that Carl seems to have remembered these details pretty well.
Yeah.
So, but that made me think, okay, is Carl misremembering what Mordecai said? Or is the syndicate telling the tutorial guides to give the crawlers conflicting information, like for entertainment purposes? What did you guys think about that?
Oh, that's a good call out. I did not pick up on that at all, actually.
Okay.
I thought that maybe Mordecai said that it could happen and that they just happened to encounter one of the stairwells that had a boss blocking it. Like, I would have to go back and check, but I didn't pick up on that at all. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think the specific quote from Mordecai was back when they were at the tutorial guild, but I did copy paste the quote from Carl's like inner monologue, thinking to himself, Mordecai said that there would be no bosses at the stairwells until the 4th floor.
But
And
now
then the other one was also a copy paste.
I'm not 100% sure if Mordecai is trying to sabotage them or not. He doesn't seem like the kind. But one of the things that I am picking up about Mordecai is that he really does not want to be there. And, you know, he even had that picture of somebody in the very beginning, right? And like
It's
His
like his
brother.
family or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the ashes of his mother. Like, I feel like as what I thought, you know, in our last section when we talked about the hoarder, the boss, the hoarder, like people are being obviously put there against their will, like, you know, without their consent. And so he's probably just doesn't want to be there. And so maybe he just kind of relayed the wrong information. I don't know.
Yeah, like unintentionally.
Yeah, I'm not picking up like sus vibes from Mordecai.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ethan?
I don't know. I think I can't distinguish what I know from what we've read in the book so far. So I'm like going to stay quiet on this one because I don't want to unintentionally give anything away.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I picked up on that the first time I read it, like there, because that is conflicting, because at this point I feel like Carl is fairly reliable as far as his memory goes.
Yeah.
And so if that's what he remembers Mordecai saying, then I want to say that that's what Mordecai said.
Right.
So I don't know if that's, I do remember feeling like, wait, what was that? But then so much happens in the story that I just kind of forgot it
Yeah.
and moved on to the next thing.
It'll be interesting to see Mordecai's character kind of develop a little more as he keeps interacting with Carl and Donut, since he is their official guide now, right?
Right.
So that will be interesting for sure. Because like I said, I kind of picked up on the fact that like he just doesn't want to be there. And so when people don't want to do their job, you know, sometimes they just don't do it correctly.
True. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
okay. Well, kind of going along some of those lines, the other thing that really stood out to me, so the first one I already talked about, you know, Carl and his great memory.
Yeah.
But the other thing is something that Rory, the goblin, how do you say that? Shamanka?
Shamanka.
Okay.
Shamanka. Yeah.
Okay. So this happened in the very beginning when they were trying to get the whole chopper and they traded the meth for that, right? So Rory, the goblin shamanka, like what she told Carl and Donut about what happens to them when the level collapses, like this honestly made me feel really sad. Because here you see that Carl and Donut are not the only ones affected by this whole world dungeon and by the Boron Corporation and the Syndicate or whatever. Kind of going off what I was saying about Mordecai, like he probably doesn't want to be there because like his world probably got destroyed since he was a crawler. Then that's probably exactly what happened too, right? So like all these people, they're being affected by this whole thing, and we don't really get to see their story because like we're following the crawlers on their journey. But we also have to remember that there's other people involved, or you know, other stories involved, and so like this kind of reminded me of that, and it's making me want to see more. Like I'm really curious to see like what happens in the future books with the Syndicate and the Boron Corporation. Like right now we're getting a lot of background story, we're getting a lot of survival, level up, you know, those kind of scenes. But honestly, I'm kind of ready to see some kind of like revolution or rebellion. And I know we're early, this is book 1, but this is where I feel like my brain is taking me, especially with some of these other people like complaining about that the fact that they don't want to be there. So this is what Rory said. She said, "The floor collapses, but it is only you who dies when this happens. For us, we go to sleep until the next dungeon opens. We will open our eyes and it will be the same as it has been, just another day. But one of these days we will wake up and we will be deeper. That's what they tell us. Kill the crawlers, get better at killing, and you get to go deeper. And one day, eventually, we will be so deep that crawlers will never come and we will finally have peace. We will have peace and a place to live and breed and have our little ones run free and not worry about killing for survival." And this was right before all their babies got blown up. So it's just like so sad to think that like they want more for their lives too. Not just Carl and Donut, you know?
They don't want to
like,
be here.
Yeah. That's why in my head I'm thinking revolution or rebellion, because it's like, come on, let's all get the unhappy people together and do something.
It's just added layers of to the levels of complexity when it comes to the idea of morality here, like I was first mentioning.
Yep.
Right.
Because, you know, these characters that Carl and Donut have been instructed to kill because of entertainment. Yeah. And, you know, you don't really know if it affects them really. Are they like computer AI generated, or are they actual actual beings? And from this paragraph that you just read, we get the sense that they're, you know, actual beings and that have feelings. And it kind of reminded me almost of like a cult leader leading their you know, the flock, whatever, of whoever's following them, like, hey, you know, this is my promise to you. I'm going to keep on saying it until you really believe it. You believe it with all your might, even though it's never going to happen. You just keep on believing it just so I can get what I need from you. And they're there to be pawns for crawlers to kill. That's all they're there for.
Yeah. Because even the AI made a super snarky comment, like after he killed these babies, he was like, don't worry, the babies go into a very safe place where they'll be reunited with their families after the show's over. And then said, just kidding. Actually, once they die, they're dead. I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible.
Was horrible.
That was terrible.
I know, but as the AI was reading that, I was like, oh, thank God.
Me too.
Oh, wait, no.
Yeah.
She just finished it with like, no, just kidding. I'm like, no.
I know.
Dang.
It's just like, this is the part of the story where I'm like, it's not just Carl and Donut that we are following, like there is
Yeah.
a whole lot of other people involved in this, and like a lot of other
Mhm.
people's lives and families are at stake. So I'm just like, how is this going to turn out?
It's crazy.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, that was mine.
Well, I think that is a perfect segue into the next portion of our dungeon run, because we're going to start with that. That's a pretty pivotal decision that needs to be made. And as the Side-Eye Syndicate, that is our party name, we need to run through these and see how we act as our own personas and how we act as a group. So you got Ethan the Unamused here. Jen, what's your crawler name?
I am Jen, the soft-hearted strategist.
The Cozy Conspirator. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so your last thing that stuck out to you was all about the goblin portion of this story, Jen. So help us paint the picture of the first pivotal decision that we have to make as a group.
Okay, so Carl and Donut, one of the first big decisions that they had in the dungeon run this time around was that they wanted to kill off the goblin chieftain after they received help from the goblins on building their chopper, and trying to get help on trying to get around the dungeon, right? So after they accidentally started that meth war, which actually Donut revealed that she did that on purpose.
Yeah.
After that whole thing went down, they decided to gain more experience and to try to level up some more by killing off the goblin neighborhood boss. And so they wanted to do it without having to face it off. They wanted to try to just blow it up and then run out of there. So that's exactly what Carl did. He put a bunch of explosives in a car, and then he told Donut that she was in charge of opening the door while he threw the cart in full of explosives and it was just going to blow it up. And so he said, either we're going to get an achievement because we killed it, or it's going to be half alive and we're just going to be running out of there. So thankfully they did kill it because they received an achievement for killing this boss. But later Donut revealed that the room was full of pregnant goblins and a bunch of babies. And so not only did Carl and Donut kill the boss, but they also killed a bunch of pregnant goblins and a bunch of babies.
Not the baby.
And I think
So-
she mentioned elderly ones too, right? So
That's
just all their
right.
vulnerable members.
Yes. So as a group, as the Side-Eye Syndicate, what would we have done in that situation? What do you guys think?
So, as a person that dabbles in not tabletop RPG like Dungeons and Dragons, because I've never played, even though I've wanted to, I do play Dragon Age Origins and Fable and all the video game RPGs. Those are my jam. And so I would have taken it as an opportunity to get easy experience points. Like killing a boss, hello, yes. And then I would have been emotionally wrecked knowing after the fact of what actually happened. So yeah, I would have done it, but sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you, Ethan. I also would have wanted to jump at that chance to gain some more experience and level up. But as soon as one of us saw babies and older people, I would have been like, abort mission, let's just go take the chopper and run,
Yeah. Yeah. See, I just think that this kill was very unnecessary. So had I been there, obviously, if I'm there in that situation, I just don't think we're not defending ourselves against somebody. We didn't get thrown into this accidentally like we did with the hoarder, right? So why are we even poking the bear? Let's get out of here. We got our chopper. We got what we needed. Let's get out. So I would have not wanted to attack this neighborhood boss, even without knowing that the babies were in there.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. Let's look at it through the lens of knowing that to better help your survival in the games, that you need viewership. Are you going to do it now?
I don't know. I struggle with the fact that the goblins, even though they were kind of forced to because of Donut's charisma, right?
Right.
I struggle with the fact that one, they helped us basically, with something like they did with Carl and Donut,
Yeah.
right? But they also gave me this like whole sob story of wanting peace. So
Yeah.
like after hearing that, I'm getting out of there. Like I'm not messing with this group anymore. Let's go find other creatures to kill that don't have a sob story. I don't know.
Well, to throw another wrench into the mix, Rory and Lorelai didn't seem to like the chieftain. So I
Yeah.
probably would have argued, like, they don't even like this guy. We can get the experience and get out, you know?
And help them out while we're at it.
Okay, so we know how the three of us feel about it, but we are a party, we are a group, we are the Side-Eye Syndicate. So as a group,
Yeah.
how do you think we would have approached the situation? I think this is what we would have done. We would have decided to attack the chieftain as well to help gain experience, level up. Like, I'm pretty sure Stephanie then would have, talked me into it as a group because they're right. And, we do need to gain experience and we do need to level up, especially for our survival. However, as Stephanie mentioned, once we would have noticed those babies and like the other vulnerable people in the room, we would have definitely aborted the mission. So if that wasn't, anything that we had to worry about when all we were doing is just killing the goblin neighborhood boss, then yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right, because like I've said before, I don't like dynamite, and so we wouldn't have approached it the same way as Carl would have anyway.
True.
I don't think, unless y'all like dynamite secretly. I don't know.
It's the easier way
If
for
I can
sure.
throw it away and be
Yeah.
It is.
gone before the action happens,
Yeah.
that would be my preference. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
True. Okay.
Okay, the second decision that Carl and Donut faced was after they escaped from Frank and Maggie when they were frozen in the safe zone. They started killing off mobs in the hallways, and then Donut mentioned to Carl, like, hold on, shouldn't we do something about Frank and Maggie and like make sure they don't attack someone else who's innocent? And so Carl decides to set a trap, one of the mob's corpses that they left, and he planted some unstable goblin dynamite on it so that whenever Frank and Maggie came through and looted those mobs, it would explode in their faces and hopefully kill them off. So that's the decision we are faced with. We escape Frank and Maggie. Are we just gonna run and forget about them, or do we also want to try to do something to prevent them from attacking anyone else? What do you guys think?
So my first instinct is to get the heck out of there. Like they have guns, I don't. So I'm going to try to get out of there. I don't want to face off with somebody that I know I can't overpower, right? So
Yeah.
my flight instinct is going to kick in and I'm going to get out of there and I'm not even going to think about going back because I don't want to die. Knowing that they're ruthless killers, like I don't want to die. So that's me. That's what I would have done. That's what I would have thought in that whole process. What about you, Ethan?
Yeah.
So when I would have been faced with that situation, I'm already kind of sus just because Frank is the name associated with whoever killed Rebecca. Yeah, so my sus meter is already going off the charts just because of that. He could have been, I could have bought his story or not. I'm still going to be suspicious and side-eyeing him. So if I'm faced in a situation where he is frozen because he's tried to come after me, then yeah, I'm going to try to maximize that as much as possible. And yeah, I'm definitely going to try to set an additional trap just to try to get him even more trapped, and to buy myself more time, to buy us as a group more time.
And then I'm with you, Jen. My first instinct would have been run and get out of there. I probably wouldn't have even thought about like, how are we going to prevent this from happening to anyone
Yeah.
else?
Yeah.
So thankfully, Ethan is the more moral person in the group and would make us think to do something about him. Well, as a group, here's how we think we would have handled this situation. So Baxter the Beloved and his suspicious harness would, and also Ethan and his spectacles of suspicion that he got from his last loot box would have probably alerted the party that something was wrong when we encountered Frank. And so as a group, Ethan would probably take the lead here in setting the trap for Frank and Maggie. Well, Steph and Jen's first instinct, as we discussed, would be to just cut and run.
Whoops.
So yeah, we probably would have taken some of that leftover dynamite from the goblin fight and set a similar trap for them to encounter and hopefully take them out of play.
All right. Here's our last pivotal moment that we've kind of gone over, or that we want to hit, that we really haven't talked a lot about here. So we get introduced to the Meadowlark group here, which is a lot of fun and such an interesting concept, considering everything that's happening in the dungeon. So we encounter the Meadowlark group, like I said, which is a nursing home group. We have elderly citizens of our own, not just elderly goblins, but elderly citizen humans with their caretakers that were at the nursing home. And this group is large. It's like 20 plus. And
You
then
said 40.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's a very large group plus 4 caretaker type employees that were working at their nursing home, including the leader. He acts as the leader, Brandon.
Yeah.
And so the decision here is because they're parked here in this part of the dungeon, and they're not really moving because they don't know how to approach the next step, which they think they might trigger the boss in this part of the area. So that's the decision here. Are we going to join the group and assist in trying to get them through? Or are we going to find an alternative route here? So what's y'all's?
Oof, I hate to say this, but this is what I mentioned earlier about being a little bit selfish and thinking about my own survival and the survival of our group. But I'm thinking we need to go find our own stairwell. Like, this group seems to be in good hands already. And the boss that they're facing is a borough boss. And, so far we've only encountered neighborhood bosses. So like, I think we need to go find our own stairwell. We need to go find one that's not blocked by a borough boss. Because I really want to make it to the next level and survive. Sorry, guys.
Cue the crawler haters. Boo.
Well,
No, we listen and we don't
to throw
judge.
myself under the bus as well, I would have been on Jen's side here and thinking like, look, these people love them, but they should not be in this game.
I know.
We need to think about us and our party and our survival and just move the heck on.
Yeah.
So that would have been my vote too.
Okay, that is fair. I must say, right? Because I think many people would probably have agreed with that, whether they would have admitted it or not. Now, here's the deal. Like I said, I love RPG games, and many of these games give you choices like this, and I can never, like, in Fable and Dragon Age, you can chase a heroic route or you can chase a villainous route. And with the villainous route, you really have to make some villainous decisions. I could never go the villainous route. It would, even though it's a video game and it's not real, I still couldn't force myself to do it. So of course my instinct here is to stay, and of course I'm going to help you. What, are you kidding? I may begrudgingly say, yes, let's do it. How can I help? But I would still be there.
Yeah.
So
look, I was an administrator for about 5 or 6 years, and I had to make a lot of really hard decisions.
Yeah, totally.
Not all of these are, what is it called? What's the saying?
Life or death?
Yes, thank you. Not all of these decisions are life or death decisions, like we're facing here with this group, but you still have to make decisions where people are not going to like you. And I'm okay with that. I know that these decisions that I'm going to make is for the better of the group. And, this is what's best for everyone, whether I'm not somebody's best friend or not. That's fine with me. So I'm okay saying that I want our group to survive and saying that we need to go a different way, because I'm used to making those kind of decisions all the time.
Yes,
Fair.
and I'm not saying what I should have, or what I will amend saying is I'm not classifying this as a villainous decision. I'm not trying to paint that Jen and Steph are the villains here, but it is a tougher decision to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as a group, as the Side-Eye Syndicate, we struggle with the decision, as we're struggling here, to either stay and help the Meadowlark group or go off on our own and find another stairwell to level 2. Steph and Jen vote to go find our own stairwell. I want to stay and help. I'm voted out here, and that's fine. The majority group voted to leave and find our own stairwell, but we make the compromise that we will promise to find the Meadowlark group in level 2 and help them with anything else that they might need. Should they make it to level 2.
You know what? I'm gonna call it the whole situation, on an airplane where they say you got to put your mask on
Thank
before you
you.
can
Yes.
help others.
Yes,
That is a
absolutely.
good way to look at it. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I love
Let's
it.
anytime we're faced with another decision like that, we're just gonna reference the airplane mask.
Yes, because it's true. You can't help others if you are not well yourself.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not us rationalizing.
We have to if we want to survive.
Yeah. That's part of it.
Okay. That leads us in, folks, to our segment that we call New Achievement. So, based on the decisions that we've made and previous decisions that we made in the dungeon, we're going to see what our new stats are and if we've had any new achievements and any loot we might have earned on this leg of the dungeon run. So I'll go first here. So last time I started out on level 4. I am now level 7. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. My strength has gone from 7 to 8. My dexterity went from 13 to 15. Endurance, 12 to 14. Intelligence, 18 to 20. And charisma has gone from 13 to 15.
Nice.
My new achievement, ethics patch installed. Against all statistical probability, you attempted to maintain a moral compass inside a televised murder dungeon. You avoided earning skull marks through direct player murder. You attempted strategic non-lethal problem solving. And you advocated for helping weaker crawlers. The dungeon finds this behavior inefficient, emotionally confusing, and deeply entertaining. Reward, +2 charisma, +1 intelligence, reputation modifier unlocked of reluctantly humane.
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly. That's good.
Love it.
Oh my gosh. I have gained some loot. I got a gold loot box. In it, I have the Professor's Barrier Coat, which is epic armor. A long, dark coat lined with shimmering arcane thread and scorch marks from educational incidents.
Give those.
There's plenty. The effects, moderate resistance to ballistic damage.
Okay.
Increased defense when protecting allies. Temporary shield generation when an ally drops below 30% health. Hello.
I
Okay.
love that.
I have also earned a delayed consequence rune, which is a rare utility item. A magic sigil that can be attached to traps or explosives. The effects allowed delayed magical detonation.
Okay.
Increased trap effectiveness when enemies are immobilized. Bonus damage against hostile crawlers. The system recognized your Frank and Maggie solution as technically creative, which is the dungeon equivalent of a nervous HR email. And Sir
good.
Copperfield, Copper earned some loot too. I have Copper's
Yay.
hypervigilance collar. So Copper's anxiety, ever the anxious dog, Copper's anxiety has now evolved into tactical awareness.
Yay. Good job, Copper.
Yeah, I know, yes. The effects being Copper can sense hostile intent from nearby crawlers, a small chance to warn the party before ambushes,
Small.
and then just small. Once per encounter, Copper may interrupt a sneak attack through barking, growling, or deeply judgmental eye contact. That's me. Those are where my stats stand, and that's where Copper stands.
Yay.
Yay. Good job. Okay, so I'll go next. I am Steph, the Cozy Conspirator. So last time I was at a level 3, and I have leveled up to a level 6.
Yay.
And then here are the rest of my stats. Thank you. My strength went up this time instead of down like last time, from a 6 to a 7.
You put some work in.
Yeah, we did some more this time. And then my dexterity went from 11 to 13. Endurance went from 13 to 15. Intelligence went from 15 to 18. And then charisma went from 13 to 14.
Sweet.
Yeah. Okay, here is my new achievement. Conscious Detective. Against all odds, prolonged dungeon exposure has failed to completely destroy your empathy. Passive effect. You'll gain increased resistance to psychological corruption effects and manipulation attempts from morally aligned enemies. Hidden effect. Dungeon viewers have started debating online whether you are secretly kind, strategically compassionate, or simply bad at committing to villainy.
I love that last one.
The engagement numbers are excellent. You know what? As long as it's bringing engagement, keep them confused.
That's all we need.
Yeah, keep
That's
it
all we
coming.
need.
Okay, here's my loot box. It's called the Ethically Complicated Utility Crate. Inside, I've got one blanket of tactical comfort,
Okay.
a magically soft throw blanket that increases stamina recovery during safe room rest and reduces panic effects for nearby party members.
Ooh, love
pretty
that.
cool.
Yeah.
And then I also got, a silver tongue serpent ring.
Ooh.
Boosts persuasion during negotiations where you are attempting to avoid responsibility, talk your way out of danger, or convince others your cautious plan is smarter. I like that.
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, boosting your persuasion, I think that's really great.
Yeah.
Yes, that's nice.
It also contains a mercy fuse, a strange explosive device that automatically weakens enemies without killing them outright. Okay.
Wow, okay, I like that.
Maybe you'll like that kind of explosive, Ethan.
Yes, I approve. Stamp of approval.
All right. So for me, I was a level 3. Now I'm a level 6. Woohoo. And
Nice.
here are my stats. So my strength went from a 6 to an 8. My dexterity went from 11 to a 14. My endurance went from 13 to 15. My intelligence went from 18 to 20. And my charisma went from 16 to 18. And my new achievement is morally flexible, emotionally devastated. So I entered the dungeon assuming survival would be simple. Now I'm debating ethics mid-explosion, adopting strangers emotionally, and questioning whether I'm still the good guy or we're still the good guys. The dungeon would like to remind you every choice just gets uglier from here. Yikes. So I got a Celestial Emotional Support loot box, and this is for crawlers carrying both the team's morality and its emotional burden. So the first item I got was the Red Flag Compendium, and this is where the pages glow violently whenever somebody says, "Trust me." It is a floating enchanted book that automatically highlights liars, manipulative allies, doomed plans, and emotionally unavailable man. Last one. I kind of need that for my real life.
I was gonna say, does this AI know a little bit more about you than what we've been giving it?
I guess so. Are you hearing me when I talk AI? Okay, you probably
Probably.
are. But the liar one would have came in super clutch when we were encountering
Yeah.
with Frank and Maggie, right? Okay, so the second item I got in my loot box is the Cardigan of Emotional Armor, and this temporarily slows time during an emotional overwhelm. Cooldown is surprisingly short. So this oversized cardigan, because of course it has to be oversized, it grants a +5 emotional resistance, a reduced panic effect, and immunity to guilt-based manipulation. And then
Nice.
Baxter coming in clutch with his harness earlier. He got a protective warning bell, and this creates a temporary protective barrier for me.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Love
Thanks,
that.
Baxter.
Right? All right. Well, that's super fun. I like that segment. That's fun.
Yeah.
So we're going into our final segment here of the episode of what could possibly go wrong. This is our standard theory and or prediction segment. We just decided to give it a fun name to match the energy of Dungeon Crawler Carl. So, but truly here, like what could possibly go wrong? I think that's a perfect name for a theory prediction segment. And last time I didn't give one, but this time I've been kind of thinking about something as I'm reading this book again and going through like the recap show of, and I mentioned this earlier, just the recap show, we're starting to see more crawlers, and we can assume that we'll probably see more and more crawlers as time goes on. I'm wondering if there ever might be a time in this story where we kind of get like an all-stars of people's favorites that team up.
Ooh.
You know?
Okay. Like as a new
I
party.
think that would be so fun. even though the premise of this story is like murder for entertainment.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a fun concept idea.
Ooh, I like
So
that
that's-
idea.
Yeah, that's my theory.
Okay.
So, since you brought that up, Ethan, it kind of goes along with what I was thinking. Like, I don't really have a theory prediction this time around. It's more so of an obvious, like we just said. Carl and Donut are going to keep encountering more crawlers throughout their journey, right? And I'm curious to see how their interaction will go. Kind of like what you said. Like, are they going to be put together? Kind of like that all-star thing. How is it going to go? Like, we already got an interaction with Frank and Maggie. You know, obviously not a good one. Then we got an interaction with Brandon and his crew. Obviously, they seem nice enough. But as I'm thinking about other crawlers and about these like potential future interactions, like I want to know more on Lucia Marr's story. She is being portrayed as this savage 13-year-old with her 2 Rottweilers. And I'm just curious to know what kind of person she is. Like, you know, she's clearly doing well in the dungeon, you know, since she got featured on the first show so early on. But I wonder if that kind of tells the whole picture of the kind of person that she really is. So, like, I don't really, like I said, I don't have a theory or prediction going into the next section. I'm wondering about what these other crawlers are going to bring to the show, right? So that's it. I want to know what Lucia Marr's story is. Like, I want to know how she's been doing so good in the dungeon and she's only 13.
13.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and like add more to that because that was gonna be my thing, Jen, until I noticed that you brought it up. But I was predicting like they're gonna maybe face off down the line at some point,
Okay.
which would be cool to see.
Yeah.
But I did come up with another prediction. So I noticed in this section that Carl thought about his dad, who apparently abandoned him at some point in his life. He thought about him a couple times in this section. And it was always like during like one of the harrowing things that they were facing. So the first time was when they came across Rebecca's corpse. And he said, I was suddenly, inexplicably reminded of that day, the last day I ever saw my father. You're a bully, and nobody likes you. It's why Mom left. I was expecting him to get angry, to hit me, but he never hit me, not once. The man just laughed, and that was enough. I don't need you to like me, but you will respect me. The memory came back quickly, out of nowhere, and I didn't know why. Nobody had died that day. Nobody had been hurt at all, not physically. And then the second time was later when they were on the chopper driving towards eventually the stairwell to the second level. He just randomly thought about his dad again. He said, I hadn't talked to or heard from the man in over 12 years, not since he abandoned me that day, leaving me all alone in the world. So my prediction is I think that even your thoughts aren't safe in this dungeon, and somehow the Borat Corporation may be like reading into those and designing the game based on that. And maybe his dad is going to end up being one of the bosses that Carl has to face
That's
down the
interesting.
line.
I mean, maybe it's not their thoughts, but maybe remember what Mordecai said, that they have been researching this earth for years, like
Right.
since
Right.
Right.
since like the 1930s or something like that, right? So like maybe they know each of these crawlers' personal histories and they know what to bring up and not bring up, right? To like cause a reaction out of them. So like that's crazy. But I have been wondering about the dad as well. Like there
Yeah.
have been things that come up and I'm just like, what is the story here? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't exactly
We're
know
gonna get
what
more on
happened
it.
that day. He just keeps bringing up
Right.
that day.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the thoughts like that. Like that would make a lot of sense. Like yes, you would study this they're studying the Earth for so long, but no one in the Borant Corporation or the Syndicate knew which crawlers were going to make it this far, so they had no
True.
way of like being sure to research certain individuals. So
But
I don't know.
they also have an AI database. Like they probably put everything
true,
into a
yeah.
database, you know?
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
or maybe they did it. Sorry, now I'm just going off like spiraling in my head. Or maybe they made it to where they like made certain crawlers go into the dungeon. So like they waited until certain people were outside, and they created scenarios to make them go outside when the world collapsed. Because
That's
how
true,
random,
because we don't know why Donut was outside.
Right,
She just randomly jumped on that tree, and she never really gave an explanation for that, right? Carl hasn't even asked.
Right. And then Brandon talked about how they ended up outside and somebody started a dumpster fire or some kind of fire or whatever that made them go outside.
That's true.
So we don't
Interesting.
know.
It's like Drag Race production trying to skew it a certain way.
Right. Like
Pretty
crawlers
much.
maybe were handpicked. Maybe Carl was supposed to end up in the dungeon and it wasn't just a coincidence, you know? So,
Right.
see, I didn't even think about that until you just brought that up. So,
Right.
Love it. Love it. It's like Fourth Wing all over again.
yeah. Okay, crawlers, that was the end of our second deep dive on Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. Let's keep the discussion going. We are Books Between Friends pod on all platforms. Thank you guys so much for interacting with us on our socials. We are loving the YouTube comments. Keep them coming, you guys. We look forward to chatting with you guys about this book. We want to know what you guys would do in the situation. You know, what decisions would you make if you were stuck in this dungeon? And as always, remember to read, read, read.
Okay, you guys, the dungeon only gets worse from here. Next episode, Carl and Donut head deeper into floor 1 as the clock keeps ticking towards collapse. New crawlers enter the story, alliances start to form, and the dangers inside the dungeon become even more brutal and unpredictable. But it's not just the monsters they need to survive anymore, it's the other crawlers too. As Carl and Donut continue leveling up and preparing for the burrow boss, they'll face deadlier fights, bigger risks, and some truly chaotic dungeon moments that only Dungeon Crawler Carl could deliver. And of course, Donut is still determined to become the star of the show. Join us next time for part 3 as we cover chapters 25 through 36 of Dungeon Crawler Carl, where the stakes get higher, the dungeon gets weirder, and survival starts demanding impossible choices. That's a wrap for Books Between Friends today. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next chapter.